Hello and welcome to Raising Anchor, your podcast and source for all things Rhode Island FC. I'm your host, Matt Entrick, coming to you on this Thursday, October 16th. RIFC treat fans to a final sold-out explosion of goals. We're going to talk about that in length, and we're going to have to ask ourselves, are the Amber and Blue back after beating the Rowdies? And I mean completely beating them 5-0. Next up, though, it's North Carolina in a game that we can see us go up the table or potentially have to look backwards and potentially go back down. So it's going to be exciting. The playoff race is here, and I can't think of anyone better to talk to than the one and only Jason Carey. Jason, how is it going, my friend?
Doing great. I just realized I was thinking last home game, man. We still got a few.
The season's not over, but our time at Centerville might be. Yeah. And I know there's some hopefuls. I know there's some people that we're trying to do the math this week about how we could get one more playoff go, one more look at Centerville Bank Stadium, and it just was not meant to be. So listen, this is going to be an exciting show based on the traffic we've seen on the website, the traffic we've seen on the accounts. People are plugged back in. This is very reminiscent of our playoff run last year, all on the road, and it's good to see fans getting caught up in the mix. But hey, listen, I got to start things off on a downer. Where's your death joke for the week? Was this too good of a result that we just can't talk about death here as the starting of the pod?
I'm pretty sure I haven't done that in a while. It feel like it's been a minute.
I mean, you have plenty of ammunition to work with here. We could talk about Rwanda's chances of making the World Cup as the Wasps have to bow out.
Too soon.
But we can live through Cape Verde making it for the first time ever in their country's history.
Awesome.
Super exciting. We could talk about Bob Lilly's career as a Pittsburgh Riverhound head coach. Maybe he comes back. Maybe he doesn't. Lots of speculation there. Hashtag not a Pittsburgh Riverhounds podcast.
That feels very reminiscent of what happened up in the Revs not too long ago.
So it feels reminiscent of that. Also, with the racial allegations that happened just a month ago, lots of people were all of a sudden trying to connect dots and tie things together. Nobody knows that situation, or at least those that do aren't in a position to start sharing that. It'll be interesting to see how that impacts their playoff run. They won their game without Bob Lilly, so who knows what will happen here as we all sprint towards this end. But hey, listen, all that really matters tonight is we celebrate here with our fans, with the RIFC faithful. Already have a good turnout here on the live show. It's going to be a great show tonight. And I want to start with one thing, since a lot of people may be capturing this show as one of their very first shows. Give us a second and please go and subscribe to all of our social channels. We don't just post in one conduit. We have TikTok memes, Instagram reels. We do actual news reporting on Twitter and Blue Sky. And then, of course, the only way you can watch the video version of this show, I know we're very much an audio heavy on Spotify and iTunes, but there's different forms. And it always surprises me. We've got close to 1,500 followers on our highest account, and then we have 250 on YouTube. So if my ask is, if you could just share the wealth across all the different things, and if you don't use one, that's fine. But we don't normally plug the show. But I figure, so since we're going to be celebrating, this is a dance party, so to speak, tonight, why not start it off with the right kind of occasion? But let's get right into this. Again, lots to cover today. This is going to be a fun one. Jason, what's our first news of the week?
Yeah, so J.J. Williams gets named to Team of the Week for his first half brace and fastest goal scored at Centerville Bank Stadium. Aldair Sanchez and Noah Fuson were also named to the Team of the Week bench. The honor is the fifth of Williams' Rhode Island FC career, and he is the only player to pick up multiple selections in 2025. He was selected into the league's best 11 in Week 3 and earned a selection into the Team of the Week's bench in Week 30 after RAFC's 2-2 tie at El Paso Locomotive FC. Excluding bench picks, Williams is the seventh RAFC selection to the USL Championship Team of the Week in 2025.
I looked it up earlier in the day, trying to think where we were at in 2024. We had a lot more player and coach of the week nods in 2024, and we're gonna compare a stat, because there's been something I've been quietly not willing into existence because I wasn't sure it was going to happen, and now that it's here, I think we're going to be able to finally silence all the haters, all the people that can't see the glass half full here in this Rhode Island space. But yeah, we've only now had, of this time, J.J. Williams with multiple scores, like you said, Clay Holstead all the way back in April, Chico in that same game along with Quazera. That was the Oakland Roots match. Jojea Quazera got it. Like I said, Connor Smith, only one coach of the week nod this year. I think he got it nominated 3 times last season. Don't quote me on that, but at least it was 2. I know that for sure, because each time we asked him, he's like, I don't care about that
I
award.
remember last year that list was getting pretty long.
Yeah.
We kept adding.
We couldn't sit here and actually read it without going even longer. And so Maxi Rodriguez, Koke Vegas round out the list. But there's a lot of names that aren't on there. Noah Fuson has yet to make that. Should he have made it this last week? I would argue he'd be. I know he's on the bench, but I would argue when you put a pasting on like that 5-0, I would argue that should be something that's happening. But as a reminder, also, JJ Williams is still up for goal of the week contention. I don't think he's going to get it. While it was great to see that goal, I think there's some better goals, unfortunately, in the category this week, and he's pretty far behind. The voting ends like midday on Friday, so if you're relying on the podcast to inform me to go vote, there's a good chance that the RIFC Nation is not behind him right now. But let's get into the next piece of news, and that's the sold-out game. Now, I know you're probably thinking, Matt, like, okay, whoop-de-doo, 10,621 people show up at Centerville Bank Stadium. They were recently nominated as the premier sports venue. They got all these awards and accolades for the building's construction and first year of use. But I want to talk about, because this isn't even the biggest sellout game they've had. They've actually had a higher game where they hit, I know, again, the capacity is 10,500, but they actually hit like 10,700 and I think 50. I should have written it down, but they have actually had a higher attendance where they were basically filling up standing room only tickets.
They're doing that in the home opener.
Exactly, and that was the game. So the stadium's now been sold out 5 times, but where I really want to go with this and just kind of put a pin in it for the time being is there's been so many naysayers this year, Jason, about soccer's never going to work in Pawtucket. Soccer's never going to work in Rhode Island. We've got the Revolution. If this isn't a testament to where this team can go. And remember, this team has struggled. It has floundered throughout the season. There's going to be plenty of growth. I don't see any reason why, when we start to think about that 15,000 stadium, like total expansion, right? So we get up to that new number for the PLS requirements for Division 1, because we're going Division 1. Like, we don't need to pretend. Yeah. This is a great indication. And so I pulled up John Morrissey's USL Stadium attendance trackers, which, by the way, other news outlets quote as the official one. And there is no such thing. And this is just the data that John can scrape.
I mean, John Morrissey is basically the official. He is
Mr. USL. Yeah, let's not pretend. But looking at it, Rhode Island FC now in its second year in 5th place in total attendance average at 8,265. And Jason, that also includes the Jägermeister Cup matches, where probably not the best attendance in that Birmingham game and then that Sacramento midweek games. I think those were down into like the 3,000 ranges. So that draws us down from our average. We could have possibly seen this as an 8,500 or higher ticket average. I mean, that's incredible. And I know people are going to go, oh, that's not Turnstile. Give us Turnstile. You're never going to get it. Stop crying about it. That's a huge accomplishment for this club.
Yeah, no, I think this is awesome. And like people crying about Turnstile, look at every other sport. Everyone does it. You can't fight it at this point. So just accept it. I think it's still a big win. I think also just a real quick caveat for maybe people who haven't been to the game. At any given time, there's like 1,000 people on the concourse.
Got to get those pretzels.
Yeah.
Until we get those people that bring beers to you, like in baseball games, people got to get up and they got to stay lubricated.
Or even then too, I've watched many a game from the concourse. There are plenty of very great views from there. So I think just calm down a bit here if you're getting up in arms.
I will. If I have one complaint, it's that despite I think we distributed our tickets, because people don't ever understand. They always think that, oh, you're media, so you're in the box, or you're just walking around, which is true. Those are usually where we occupy. But we own season tickets.
Yeah.
And we didn't sit in them once this season. And the 2 times where we said, we're going to go do this, one of them, it rained out. So we're like, well, we're not going to go sit in our seats. And the second time, a family was sitting there. And I wasn't going to displace like 3 kids that were sitting in our seats. Like, it's like, hey, you need to have a good time. We can move on. We can meander elsewhere. But listen, whether you care about that number or not, the important thing is when you compare it to Burn Stadium's attendance rates of last season and the average of 4,347, that's a 90% increase. So right now,
not bad.
Whether it's the performance on the pitch, which I'm so excited we get to talk in a positive way at such levels tonight, or it's the performance of the stadium and the front office and the marketing team, just flowers all around. And it was a great time. It was a great time to celebrate. We got to move on. And I just want to list it because I thought about skipping over this, but then I realized like some people weren't at the game, right? Some people are attending from afar, and these things aren't the parts that go in the broadcast and the social media team puts it out, but like really kind of honing in it. So I just want to really quickly go over all of the awards that the players had. So at the end of fan appreciation, the players, the staff, everyone gets a breakdown of like these special awards that range from their positions on the pitch to their efforts in the community. And then, of course, Defiant 1636, our incredible supporter group, they go for Player of the Year. And I just want to go through them, ask your thoughts at the end here, and just kind of make sure that this all feels like this is in check for what we would have expected if it was our vote on the matter. So first up, for Community Award. So this is the player that has the contribution that extends beyond the pitch. Clay Holstead, his second year in a row of receiving an award. Last year, he was the midfielder of the year and Defiant 1636 man of the year, but this year gets the Anchored in Community Award. Next up, Karifa Yao as Defender of the Year, his second one in a row now. Forgot that he got that last year. Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
In the Midfielder of the Year column, Amos Shapiro Thompson. We're going to talk about him at length. What a comeback story it has been for him. And then the Player of the Year, I think it'd be hard to deny that it's Koke Vegas. I mean, the transformation this team has gone under with him between the sticks, it's been apparent, right? Do you see any reason why any other player should have been nominated or at least considered amongst this group? Is there a close contender that should have been considered in the absence of one?
I mean, maybe I would want to like give some flowers to Aldair Sanchez. I think he's done really well for this team. I think he's leading and maybe chances creating assists for this team. So I think he's done well for us. So I could see him like right below that tier of, maybe one or two more assists. We couldn't ignore it. We'd have to kind of put him in that conversation. But also know there's been some rotation. So maybe that's kind of one of those things where, he unfortunately didn't get that nod there.
Absolutely. And then, of course, the most important award that went out for the season, and that was Player of the Year from Defiance 1636 to Amos Shapiro Thompson. So he gets the brace. He gets the double. And I mean, like I said a second ago, what a comeback story. It was really rewarding. If you're not, again, following Mr. USL at USL Tactics, John Morrissey in his rundown. So he does a power ranking every week, and then he kind of does the things that you need to be paying attention to across the championship. And in the bottom segment, as like an afterthought or his notes column, he had a nice soliloquy, an apology, if you will, on Amos Shapiro Thompson's contribution and the vital importance. And we've talked about this at length, Jason, about sometimes what players do is not going to earn you the goal or the assist, but it's the presence and it's the composure that the team has that then carries the result forward or shifts the mindset and the tactical awareness. And while Amos Shapiro Thompson doesn't have any top stats when it comes to the flashier things like goals and assists, John Morrissey was right to call out that basically every game that he's been a part of, we've had a positive result. Every game he's not been on the pitch, we've been completely capitulated, and it hasn't been exactly a great game for us. Now, the one thing I'll call out about Morrissey is he wrongfully accused him of being an attacking midfielder. And I said there's way more utility in what Amos has demonstrated. In fact, so much so in this game, we saw it again on display that, majority of the season he's been in that right wing back, that right midfielder, that attacking midfielder, that right winger. Sometimes he's been on the left. Like, he's been a very versatile player. I think a lot of our players have. But I can't think of a better story than this comeback of last year. Amos played exactly 45 minutes in the regular season, looked me dead in the eyes as we started the playoffs and said, I'm going to make the most of my time. And I think he has come back in the best way possible here in 2025.
Absolutely. We went into this season kind of not knowing what to expect from him because, like you said, 45 minutes last year, that's so hard to really understand what contribution he would bring to the team. And I think we were all kind of shocked at how much of an impact he made. I mean, he has such a work ethic that, is unparalleled. I mean, producer Torin was comparing him to like N'Golo Kante in a way, of that way that he's just feels like he's everywhere in the midfield all at once.
Yeah, I mean, I look at Amos Shapiro Thompson, I look at Kante, and I see the same person. Just like spitting images of each other.
Same player.
All right. You ready to get into the fun stuff here and start talking about this recap?
Yeah.
All right. 5 goals. Jason, I was thinking about how I wanted to start this recap, and I try to be clever at times, and USL editor Nicholas Murray like beat me to the punch, and his quip was too good. So I'm just, sometimes you flatter people by stealing directly from them. And he summed it up best. He wrote in his recap of the championship week, what is it about home finales for Rhode Island FC playing against teams based in Florida that just gets them like alive. Goals galore are back, baby. We are back. We are back.
Rhode Islanders love Florida, so I mean that might be part of it. I mean, also, hey, maybe there was a guy dressed as a Blue Power Ranger, and then also last year at the final home game, he was there too, and they score a lot of goals. So maybe that has something to do with it.
So I am so glad you brought that up, because we debated, and I think people need to know the inside story of exactly what happened for this game, because we talked at length. They said, hey, are you going to don are you going to don the necessary things that happen in your life? And you weren't sure. You were on the fence about, like, do I need to go do this? Is this the appropriate thing to put on? Because we did that last year as a Halloween thing, right? It was the final game of the season. It was late in October. It was closer to Halloween than it wasn't. And it was fun. There was a lot of good time with it. You interviewed Coach Kano in your Blue Ranger power costume. It was a good time. But this one, it's October it's October 11th, and it's like, this is not the time to be dressing up as a Power
some
Ranger.
People make Halloween their entire, like, personalities.
But you did it, and it may have been the most important thing that you've ever done. And someone online,
at this point, I'm locked in.
A new RIFC spoof account did remind us that now, with the Blue Power Ranger at the helm, we've now seen not 8, not 10, not even 12, but 13 goals in front of a home crowd on the final game of the season. So I will tell you directly,
what, 1 goal against?
Yeah, I will tell you, ownership has reached out to me, and they have demanded that as long as there is breath in your lungs, you have to wear that at the end of every single home game, every single fan appreciation night. I've told them they need to invest in the costume. I've got ideas. We got to take this to a whole new level. You need a straw so that you don't have to take the helmet off and you can continue to drink underneath your helmet, because I know that was a problem for you. And I have a video that I'm going to eventually put out where you tried to access the pay-as-you-go into the alcohol section, but your wallet was inside your power suit, so you were trying to shimmy the scanner, and someone finally just said he didn't want to see you struggle. Justice deserves that kind of kindness, and he just bought you a beer. So we need to fix all of it. We need to overhaul the entire process, but next year we're going to see it all over again. So I think this is a new tradition that is coming to life. So next up, we need the Ranger Nation. We need more Blue Rangers. We need Yellow Rangers. Like, we need it. It just needs to happen, and I'm on board for it. But jokes aside, this game, I think, amounts to a lot of things that fans have been waiting all season to happen. And, I don't want to put anything behind the goals galore part of it, because we used that both for us and against us earlier this season.
Absolutely.
And what I really want to talk about is just how commanding of a win, of a performance, of a complete 90 this was. Because I think some of the wins that fans have seen at Centerville Bank Stadium, and if you ask Kano, like, he is, and I agree with him at this point, it has been a successful season at home at Centerville Bank. It hasn't always felt like it. It's felt scrappy. It's felt really like nail biting, right? Like squeaky bum time at times. I don't think we've walked out of a game where it's like, yes, like, we destroyed our opponent. We did it on the road. We did it against Oakland. We did it against Tampa. But I don't think we've seen that here. And it just finally felt like the dam broke. Like, we saw vestiges of it, but it doesn't really count. Hearts of Pine in the Jägermeister Cup, but that was a USL 1 team, not to take anything away from them. But, like, we just hadn't seen that. And it didn't need to be 5-0, by the way. If it had stayed 3-0, that game still felt very much in our pocket. We just blew the brakes off of it and said, hey, we're going down in the best way possible.
Absolutely. This felt like the first commanding home win that we had this season, where there was no doubt. And it felt, like you said, it wasn't scrappy. It felt like we took the game by the scruff of its neck and just, absolutely controlled it. I mean, you go back and even watch the highlights. They basically had no chances. There was like 2 shots that were like wayward and like 1 save from Koke. And
the save came in like the 82nd minute.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like they were under the pressure to potentially change their fortunes early in this game. So I think that the fans deserve this. You couldn't have asked for a better Hollywood ending for the final game of the season at home. And it was just incredible. And like, I don't know why we didn't expect that. Like, we predicted that this would be a low scoring affair because RFC's offense hadn't been consistent. These two teams were coming at each other at a pivotal moment in the season, but that really wasn't the case, was it?
Yeah. And so actually, if you kind of look at the other matches now at this point and combine them all together, we've actually, to a certain extent, we've kind of had their number right? 8 goals against them this season unanswered. You know, combined with what last year were 17 goals in this. Like that's
I think that's the highest now goal in regular season, because if you add like Indy and Lou, I think those could potentially edge out because it's just one extra game. But I don't think there's another team where we've seen that much transaction on both sides in a single competition. So like we've talked at length about how our games against Loudoun, our games against North Carolina can be kind of dead rubbers at times. I think now from now on, at least for the foreseeable future, when we get to these Tampa matches, like we always seem to be showing up. Maybe Tampa needs to kind of figure that out next season. And I also think it comes in a large part due to one JJ Williams, which we'll kind of get his words here in a second. You know, you said it a second ago, 8 goals now unanswered by Tampa this year. Technically more goals. If you really also think about it, you open your mind here for a second. There was the Marky Barra set piece goal that was called off. And then Jason, and I've heard the complaints online. I've seen some of the commentary, a little bit of controversy, because finally we score a corner kick and we can get the elusive Chick-fil-A sandwich, only for it to be called back. No Chick-fil-A sandwich. Fans were upset in the moment. I didn't understand what, like, I thought they were booing the fact that like the goal was called back. Then I realized, oh wait, they had finally earned this thing, the ultimate gift to be given on Fan Appreciation Night, and it didn't pan out. Listen, full credit to Chick-fil-A of North Attleboro. They got their, whatever they put into this advertising project, they got their money, they got their dividends, and then some.
Yeah. And so some math happened, and if we had scored that goal, the production cost is a little over $1. So each time RFC secured a goal, they would have been out around maybe 11K. We had exactly 70 corner kicks in the regular season, plus Open and Jägermeister Cup. So, you know, whatever Chick-fil-A paid RFC.
So you're saying we could have bankrupted the Chick-fil-A in North Attleboro by a tune of about $770,000 if we converted 100% of them. Do you think RFC even, like, do you think Chick-fil-A even paid them, or they said the gift of these is the advertisement? You just have to say our name on every single one of these corner kicks.
It's probably like the advertisement at that point. I mean, you know, in this modern game, how many goals are actually scored from corner kicks? Probably not. It's probably a very low percentage, like 2%.
Don't make me go pull stats. I will start looking that stat up for next week.
I guarantee you it's like 5% or less.
I do know that when you pulled the stat for 70, we had 70 home corner kicks. We had only 30 on the road this year. So there's something about this team at Centerville Bank Stadium. They were trying to get us to Chick-fil-A. It just could not happen. But let's get back on track. Let's talk more about this result here at length. Listen, this definitely was not Bill Hamid's best night. And it felt really good to demolish him after we lost to him already once this year with Miami FC at Centerville Bank Stadium. So this felt like a very good comeuppance and saying like, hey, you know, we run this town, you don't. Do you think that he might have considered after this game of just hanging up the gloves forever and just calling it a career? I mean, he's been playing, and we heard from Carlos last week that he's been playing in like the Virginia Dream sides and a lot of the DC United like subdivision teams. He just wants to stay a part of the game. Could this have been that moment? Like, I don't got the sauce anymore. I can't hang with the boys.
I mean, he's got 2 more games left for the Rowdies, right? At that point, I think if he can kind of turn it around and maybe just because these professional athletes all have bad games, right? So you have to have that ability to just shake it off. If they continue to get routed after this, I could definitely see him maybe at the end of the year saying, hey, I did my best. I think it's time to call it quits.
We'll see what happens. I mean, he's got 2 games left, but they're all basically just for participation at this point. He's not doing it for the money. I mean, he was making way better coin with the MLS. But hey, listen, moving on to this. It's the 3rd time this season it's not this season. It's the 3rd time in the history of the club where we've scored at least 5 goals or more. Obviously, we have this one. Obviously, we all remember the other goals galore. Can you quickly remind me of the 3rd game where that happened?
5-2 Louisville.
Bingo, you got it.
We kind of sucker punched them, and
only 3 times we've ever done it. So the question is, Jason, and the thing I want to talk about at length, where has this team been all season? Where have they been? Why has it taken so long to find this, and why did it come in the final game? I'm happy we're here. And from a timing perspective, it's the best time you could possibly be. But why did it take so gosh darn long to get here?
Procrastinator FC. We wait till the end of the year to do all the work.
That's all you got?
I mean, it feels like there was a lot of tweaks throughout the year. There's plenty of changes that happened. I mean, at one point where we talked about like 17 different injuries, and I think we didn't update that stat. That could be higher now. I wouldn't be surprised if it's closer to 25. There was just enough moving parts where it felt like it threw off our offense, and it took him a long time to click. And I also just think that something about this team with their backs against the wall, they just kind of rise to the occasion. It felt maybe throughout the year too much to like, we'll figure it out next week. They kind of didn't push themselves hard enough. Only they can answer that. But there are definitely times where, this team that we saw here, that fight, that energy, that commanding presence that they have, we haven't seen that in a lot of games. So I don't know exactly what kind of flipped the switch in them. I think part of it is, getting pushed to the end where you need to win to make it to the playoffs.
Yeah. And with this loss now, Tampa Bay not going to be able to make it into the playoffs. So not only did we get a commanding win, a feel-good win for ourselves, but we were able to destroy an opponent along the way and kill their hopes and dreams. A lot of conversation happened after this game, kind of like we're discussing about where was this team all year. Some people were comparing like, you get lucky every once in a while. Some were saying Tampa had cooled off. I don't agree with that narrative. Tampa and us were coming in with some of the best runs of form across the last 5 games. Confidence was high on both of these teams. They both knew what a result would mean for their individual playoff hunt. So interesting to see, yet RIFC still puts the business to Tampa. Tampa's head coach after the game said they exposed weaknesses that I've been aware of that I couldn't fix in year. And it just came down to it, kind of giving Coach Cano, his tip of the cap on what he did to assemble this team. And I want to talk about that at length. Now, we interviewed Cano after the game, but with everything going on, it's probably the shortest press release for him that I've ever seen. Obviously, when you win like this, it's a much nicer interview. So not a lot to be extracted, but there are some key things that I want to kind of open up and discuss about kind of where he was at in the side. So here's Coach Cano in his own words for after the game.
Thanks, Coach. We'll let you start off with the opening statement.
That was fun. That's our team. That's what our team looks like. That's what our team looks like when they perform at their best. So it's been coming. But yeah, all the credit to the players. They know what they're supposed to be. They know how they're supposed to play, and yeah, that's just fun to watch them.
Was that your vision when you put this team together this year? That type of style?
Yeah, it was high energy. It's high intensity. They were running, closing them down, pressing them, scoring goals. Yeah, that's our team.
Coach, you said a second ago it's fun. Do you get to enjoy games like that? Like, is that a moment where you get to step aside and just let it unfold in front of you?
When it was 4-0, yeah. 3-0, still couldn't, but 4-0, I was like, all right, I need to enjoy it.
Coach, Noah looks like he's playing basically like he played at the end, with that confidence and that movement, whatever you want to call it. How well is he playing for you right now? Is he kind of unlocking everything right now for you guys?
Yeah, that's our Noah. That's Noah. That's Noah performing at his best, and he's had his ups and downs, but it's never been through like effort. The kid works harder than everyone. He's the last person off the field every day. I have to chase him off the field. So yeah, he's right where he needs to be now.
We talk about form. This is a momentum game, not just for the fans at the home stadium in the last game, but just going into these final games. How critical is this for you?
I'll prefer to perform like that the whole season, but yeah, if you're gonna perform and get into your best form, you would rather be at this time of the year, I guess. But I prefer we doing it early in the year and sustain it throughout the whole entire year.
That's all I got, Coach.
That's it. All right. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
JJ wouldn't stop talking, so.
Yeah, that's normally Coach. Thank you.
So that's Coach Cano. Again, I asked him, my only question, I mean, I asked two, but the real one, when he said, they had fun, we had fun. Did you get to have fun? Because I think sometimes it's a professional sport, results matter. And after a game like that, like, did you get to, and I think you saw it. I think you saw it in the photos that fans shared, that the club shared. Like, this is what Cano has expected the entire season. And it's finally arrived. He even agreed. He wished it had been here a little bit sooner. But you can feel like this team, like the locker room was always there, but now it's like they're fighting for each other at a whole nother level, and they're going at, like, the confidence is through the roof at this point. If it was at the max capacity, the thermometer at the top is blown open, it's spilling out, and they're just on a whole different level now.
Absolutely. It's like Coach said, wish we could have maybe see this a little earlier, but it's the right time. I mean, we made a run last year. Who knows what can happen this year?
So we've got one more that we want to share, and this is Maxi Rodriguez kind of opening up about the game before we talk about the tactics and the overall of what happened for the match. So here's Maxi Rodriguez.
Can you explain what happened tonight, or how that happened tonight?
Yeah, I think we've said it before. I think it was just a matter of time, and things are connecting, and we're peaking at the right time, and that's what a 10-month season is about. It's a long season. There's ups and downs. It's about getting hot at the right moment, and this team's done it before, and looks like we're doing something similar again.
I know last week's game doesn't officially count for anything, but we all saw what happened. Was that a kind of a springboard to what you guys did last week, and you built off that to this week?
Yeah, I don't think it was just necessarily last week. I think there's performances before that were good, and it was something building, and I think tonight was a result of things connecting and coming together. So sometimes it looks like it's just 1 week that jumps you to that, but it's multiple weeks of learning and growing as a team, and that's what it's about.
Can you say anything technically about what's maybe slightly different on these last? I mean, you've got 13 points in the last 15 available, so there's something going on here.
Yeah,
I guess it's belief, but there's something else beyond belief that's happening here.
Yeah, I think we're playing better football, and that's what it's about. I think there's just moments where we're capitalizing sometimes off of their mistakes, which sometimes at the beginning of the year the bounces weren't going our way. So, and guys are finding form at the right time, and it's kind of finding the balance of finding form, playing well, maybe a couple games in a row that give you more belief and positivity. So, yeah.
If one of those bounces going the right way, the ball goes off the bottom of Chico's foot and it kind of just slides to the left, right to you.
Yeah, exactly. I think coming on, I think I was like, yeah, I'll probably score this game. I just get lucky sometimes when it comes coming off the bench and games wide open. Tough for them. I think they knew their season was potentially over after the fourth goal, so I kind of just wanted to capitalize, maybe get a little bit of confidence from that.
For you guys, there's still work to do. I mean, now you're going to go on the road and kind of replicate this, don't you?
Yeah, the good thing is I think we continue to hold kind of our situation in our hands, and that's what we need to continue. If teams drop points, then great, but continue to control what we can.
Have you seen Noah? You and Noah kind of had a nice little connection early in the season. How well is he playing right now? Some of the stuff he did tonight was really, really impressive.
Yeah, I think he's an unbelievable player. I told him from the beginning, there's ups and downs, and I think he's 24, 25 years old. I mean, I was sitting at home without a club at that time, and he sometimes gets some slack if he doesn't have form, but he's such an unbelievable player that when he finds his form, he can do amazing things for this team, and he's kind of the driving force for us. And then as he gets older, he's going to understand what are the things that he needs to do in order to get out of a bad slump. But I think he's just enjoying football again. I think sometimes you come into work or you're not getting the right results. I wouldn't say he lost his fire, but sometimes you just got to realize, like, we're playing football, we kick a ball for a living. You just got to go out and enjoy it, and you can tell he's enjoying it and playing with a smile. And sometimes that's all you have to do, and then you'll get a goal, an assist. But I don't want to take away from what he was doing at the beginning of the year, because I think he was doing the right things. I think you're just either out of form or you're just unlucky. So sometimes a goal and assist is perceived as a great game, but he still does things that are so necessary for the team whenever he's not scoring or he's not getting assists.
So that's Maxi Rodriguez making sure he doesn't get himself in trouble by talking about Noah's hot. They're cold, then now heat. I also like that he always refers to himself as the old man, as someone who I'm his old man then by that same number of years. It's always ironic to hear a younger person tell anyone that they're the old man. Any takeaways from Maxi's position on that? I loved his comment about, hey, we play for 10 months. We don't play for 1 week. We don't play for 1 month. People need to get it out of their mindset that like just one little bit of bad results doesn't mean the season's over. We play a long season. Anything that you kind of looked at when you were listening to that?
I think he's right there. It absolutely is a long season. And the way that American soccer is set up, sometimes you just have to get hot at the right time. So
I don't disagree. So let's talk about how Coach Cano constructed this squad, because I think there's some big things to extrapolate here as to the build behind the madness that is Coach Cano here. So walk us through how he built this team.
Yeah, so obviously Coque Vegas and net, but there is a little bit of difference here in that back three. Grant Stoneman, Karifa Yao, and Hamidi Diop. Technically now his first time.
Technically his first start. Yeah. I always love when like you have to be really careful. We like everything needs to be air quoted and asterisks now when any quote comes from the league. Even the front office at Rhode Island, I don't fault them for it because they're just taking data directly from one of their sources. And like I'll go back and check and it's like, no, this isn't his second start. This is his first start now. I mean, we know it's not, but yeah.
Then we got Frank Nodarce finding his way back into the team there. That means Clay Holstead got to be in the midfield next to Hugo Bacharach with Aldair Sanchez out on the left there, with a front three of Amos Shapiro-Thompson, JJ Williams, and Noah Fuson.
Listen, we're going to talk at length about that midfield pairing here in a second, but I will go on the record here that and I really look at these players as like for like at this point in Sanchez and Quizera, I think this is your starting 11. I think that this has been the starting 11 that many RI faithful have been looking for a lot of different reasons. One, Clay is finally in the midfield where he belongs. We've talked about the problems on the right wing back side. We've at times patched it and band-aided it with Noah Fuson, with Amos Shapiro-Thompson, but there's never been a true defender. And when we've put an offensive player in there, they're stifled in their ability to move the other way vertically. So we get a natural defender who, according to Cano, he's a baller, and we've seen it. Frank, we saw this last year in the playoffs. Frank can play on that side. I have concerns about his legs. I don't know if he's got the gas to go the distance like maybe other right wing backs on this team, either current or legacy, could go. Hugo in the midfield, I know we interviewed him. He wants to be a center back, but the team, I said this from the very beginning, the team never brought him on to be that. He can do it. It's serendipitous. It's great. But like, this is it. And maybe
it's
Zach
his fault for being the Rhode Island Busquets,
Hey, what? I'll get him the shirt. And and Zach Erivo's not even on this team. But the conversation really right now is I think this is our best 11. And the fact that we can call Maxi Rodriguez, Mark Ibarra, Chico, Mabika now off the bench, like it's all just coming together.
I mean, you could even throw Jokes Quizera on there late to run at tired legs. You could get Busy in there as well late too to run at tired legs. I mean, there's a lot of options here, but I think you're right. I think this is pretty much the best possible lineup we could probably employ right now.
Agreed. And I mean, what a result they got from using this squad. Rhode Island FC have now scored in 5 straight games, its longest such streak in the 2025 regular season. In that same time, Jason scored 12 goals. Now, keep in mind, just like 4 weeks ago,
we'd only scored like 4 goals in the whole year, right? Was that?
I think it was 21 goals. So now, not only is this the longest scoring, it's the highest amount. It's also almost half of our goals. We're at 28 goals now. So at 12 scored, I mean, I know that's 40% ish, but like, still, like, where has this, again, the question of the night, everyone, where has this team been? Now, I will say, obviously, it's great that we scored all these goals, but I think the thing that we need to deep dive into here is it's not just that the goals showed up, it's also who put in the goals and who fed the goals to our goal scorers, because I think that is the other key component of this. Last year, we talked at length about 13 to 14 players all having a shot at net. This year, that number has been condensed, but even amongst our goal scorers, it hasn't been prolific. They haven't been able to. So unlike in the past where you could see 5 new people get onto the score sheet for the first time ever this season, all of our goals came from our concentration of our strike force, and then I would say 2 of our subs in players that we've needed to have kind of that kick forward, that get into gear. And I think that's the more important part, right? We talk about JJ Williams first scores the fastest goal, like you said earlier, 8th minute. Now, fastest goal in club record, still a minute with Chico and Noah Fuson against San Antonio. But so he scores that with Fuson feeding him. And then they flip the script back around, and JJ Williams does this amazing assist back to Noah Fuson the other direction.
That second goal was really reminiscent of, I don't know if you remember the infamous Why Always Me 5-1 route of Man City and United, when David Silva caught a ball, threaded it through the entire midfield to Dzeko, streaking back to, it was very much like that. It was like picture perfect right there.
You know that half of the people in New England are United fans, and then the other half are Tottenham fans for some reason.
So they all hate themselves. Sorry.
So with that brace for Williams, he's now at 7 goals. I think own goal is now out of the contention for Golden Boot amongst Rhode Island players.
Okay, good thing we didn't sign him then.
He's scored, and again, I got it 4 in the last 6 regular season games because Vegas makes it weird. He's the all-time leading scorer with 18 goals. And he's the big man on campus now.
Yeah. It's same thing last year. He's getting like hot at the right team. I mean, plus, converting the pen, shaking kind of off that dust there. We've been kind of hot and cold on pens. So every time we convert one, it's like, okay, maybe we're finally starting to get that stat going to the right direction, and we can kind of stop seeing ourselves as a bad penalty taking.
I mean,
team.
we've seen players that don't ever get out of their headspace when they start to fail to convert pens. I mean, Fuson suffered from it. Chico suffered from it last season. So agreed. Speaking of Fuson, 4th goal of the regular season for him, 5th all time across all competitions for the season. And it's his 2nd game in a row of a multi, contribution, both goals and assists, again, in a row, because Las Vegas makes that a fun fact.
Yeah. And that goal was actually his 14th of his RIFC career, which is 3rd most all time. With that link up, the exact same partnership last week against the Las Vegas game. That definitely
is Las Vegas just like they don't exist as a team now?
Yeah, Las Vegas.
Did you see, by the way, really fast, Reno is back, but we don't know if it's Reno 1868 again. So they announced today, the championship announced that they have a stadium plan. So it's like, this is the kind of announcement you want. Stadium first. They have the property. They've already purchased the property. It's downtown, and they're bringing a Reno championship team back in 2027. No one has said out loud if it will be 1868. It needs to be, in my opinion, but no one has said it.
If not, do you think
we riot?
Well, I was going to say, is that what the supporters group's just going to call themselves?
Oh, I don't know what their supporter group was. All right. Anyways, back to our goal scoring. # not a Reno 1868 podcast. Chico gets back on the score sheet. I think this is a huge moment for him. It's his 3rd goal of the regular season. You look at all the performance he had in the Open or the Jägermeister Cup, but didn't translate to success in the regular season. So now he's 6 across all competitions in 2025. And he's just 1 goal behind Williams all time. So, like, again, we talked about that last year, how Williams was gone for such a large spell. Chico was inconsistent, but by the end of the year, both of them had hit double digits. Now it's kind of that weird conversation. Like, neither one of them is really pulling away from each other to get that prolific, like, I am the scorer of all scores on this team.
Yeah. And then Chico returned the favor there and actually assisted Maxi Rodriguez's goal there late on, making his team leading 4th of the regular season there.
Yeah, and so displacing Aldair Sanchez, who had fed him a second ago for his 3rd assist of the season across all competitions. And then, of course, you got to go to Maxi Rodriguez. Comes on. Maxi's just the coolest dude. He just shows up. He even said it in his interview and says, yeah, sometimes I don't even have to start. I just kind of walk on the pitch and I score goals. That's what I do. He scores his 4th goal now of the USL Championship season. And the last time he netted was against Detroit City FC in that very famous, hey, screw you guys. I'm now a Rhode Islander for life. So it's fantastic. I mean, you talk about this and I just, again, Cloud 9 is the only thing I can think about.
Yeah, he's up to 7 now in all competitions. So, I mean, we're starting to creep up there. We're getting some more goals that spread around, so it's good. Like last year, you don't want to rely too much on one person to kind of do all the scoring for you. maybe the best part of all is just that, these are the players we need to get hot at the right time, right? We've talked about this. Maxi talked about it. It's a long season, but with playoffs looming, this is the right time. Every one of our strikers scores a goal. That's huge. Our best playmakers are adding into the mix where they've maybe been a little inconsistent this year. And this is where you start to ask yourself, can we run it back? What was your favorite of the goals?
I my heart says it was the sequence where Clay disrupts it. The cross Noah then, so it's a high press against them. Clay disrupts a pass trying to break the press. It falls to Noah. Noah sends it across to Aldair. Aldair taps it back in. I am a sucker for those kinds of sequences because it almost looks planned, but it's just players being in the right position at the right time, a little bit of luck, and then Chico just going and just tapping it in and like everyone calls him a tapping merchant. He's not a tapping merchant, but he does it. And the reason it's my favorite, but the reason it's my favorite is he goes full Darth Sidious afterwards, pulls the shirt up over his face, and he goes over. I think it was to Forrester, and he says something to him, and he
pushes him away.
I need to find out what Chico said. If he had been in the press conference room, I would have asked him, "What did you say?" But that is my mission for the next media day. Is I want Chico. I ask Chico, what were the words you exchanged? I just need to know. How about you? What was your favorite?
I really liked the first one. It was a really good sequence, and then the second one as well too. It's just that kind of catch the ball quickly, flick it pass through defense. Those are both great goals there.
Yeah, I mean even Maxi's. It's just a controlled collection from Chico. He's already in their heads, and then a chip like that. The disrespect to Bill Hamid, legendary Bill Hamid. Dang,
maybe
just disgusting.
Like you said, maybe he's a little bit past it. We'll see.
Just nasty.
See what happens at the end of the year here.
So I don't think we have time for JJ Williams and his interview just because we're already pretty long here, but we can do it. So I'm going to ask the chat here over the next 5 seconds. If the chat wants JJ Williams, we're going to put the JJ Williams interview up, because otherwise what we can talk about at length is how these goals were unlocked. And I think that's the other really important part to it. It's not just feet to balls into nets. There was a part to it that Kano really saw a lot more successful here, and that was the deployment of that midfield pairing in Hugo Bacharach and Clay Holstead in the center. Right? We talked about it at length that Clay is supposed to be in the center, and it really wasn't though the double pivot. We've seen a lot of double pivot this season, and producer Torin and we had a really good exchange about how in this case, because Hugo still has the capability to go up, and we've seen him just take the ball and run straight through. It allowed freedom for Clay to move vertically in the central channel, something he hasn't been able to do a lot. Normally it's out on the wing and he's coming in, he's moving through. We don't get to see it as much from that center space. So now you've got you've got Aldair and Nadarce stretching the outside flank. They can't stay compact. And it's like Holstead just had this whole conduit to run in, this space to go in. He had distributions through Fuson, through Amos, JJ as that trapper, that center forward that can just hold on to the ball for a second. And we saw continuous runs. Jason, how many times this season have we seen Holstead make a run through the center column that advanced past the strike force? It doesn't happen.
Yeah,
he wasn't given that
on one of the wings or something.
Yeah. So and what happens? He gets unhooked, he gets unchained, and then boom, penalty. This is, where has this been? Again, the question of the night, Jason, where has this team been? Where has this tactical setup been?
The only way it could have been better if he scored a vintage, banger from 38 yards out.
I was waiting for him to take one. Honestly, I was waiting for it. It just did not happen. All right, well then we're going to move on and we're going to talk about the Golden Glove race, because I think that's the other big thing here that we got to talk about. And I know you always love to make sure that defenders get the shout outs, because this may have been a 5-0 beatdown, but it was also a clean sheet.
Yeah. And we've gotten pretty good at that. So you have to give a shout out to the defense here, as well as goalkeeper Koke Vegas. It's his 10th clean sheet of the regular season out of 20 matches he's played so far. The 19th of his Rhode Island career as well. While he wasn't terribly tested, he did come up big with a save to earn his flowers, and Rhode Island FC kept a clean sheet in 11 of their 28 matches. Only Louisville with 12 have done more often in the USL Championship this season.
So I had a couple questions come in an email this week about what are his chances for Golden Glove, and it's not looking good. A lot of people asked, did the result against Las Vegas that was shipped away help him? It absolutely did. But right now, and for those of you that watch along, there's a bar graph on about the number of clean sheets that each keeper that's kind of in the race, as well as their goals against average or the number of minutes per conceded goal that have occurred inside the championship this season. Right now in the lead is Damian Loss with Louisville City. He has just 18 goals conceded. Now, of the group, Koke Vegas is still the best keeper. He's only allowed 16 goals in this season so far, but he's only played 19 games, which, when you look at a number like Danny Vitiello's, who he's had 27 matches under him, the most of any keeper here in the season, it's just not quite there. Damian Loss has those 5 extra games, and this is where the minutes average does hurt Koke, because he doesn't have the total, those extra 90 minutes to add to it. So in that same space, while Koke is second behind Vitiello in clean sheets, he's also second behind Damian Loss. Right now, Damian Loss at 119 minutes goal against average, or minutes in between each goal conceded. Koke right behind him at 106. We can round up to 107 minutes based on the decimals. Vitiello behind him at 101, and then Eric Dick is at 94. Anthony Siaha down to 77, and then Reiko Arozarena is down to 55 with the lights. Now, so it's really basically, you could say it's in a 3-way contention between Vitiello, Vegas, and Loss, but really here with just these 2 matches to go, it's really between Vegas and Loss. And then again, that's understanding if Vegas plays these final 2 games, are 21 matches enough to be in consideration? Like, it would be terrible if he's able to squeak this out, but you needed 23 matches and your Las Vegas game didn't count for it. But I did the math. I did the simulations here. Koke Vegas can win the Golden Glove outright with one scenario happening. He has to keep the next 2 matches clean. So he has to keep North Carolina and New Mexico scoreless. And if he is able to do that, Damian Loss needs to allow or concede 4 goals across these final 2 matches.
That's asking a lot.
Something he has not done at length. I don't think any team except for one has scored more than 1 goal against them.
Do we know who they play?
So they play Hartford for the final game of the season.
Okay,
so that could be one. That could very well. And then I don't remember off the top of my head who they play for their last game here. I can look it up while we are just stalling for time here. And it looks like they are playing Orange County, who are in a do or die. They're in 9th place, trying to edge into the Western Conference.
It's not impossible, but I think at this situation, it's incredibly unlikely. I think you, though, could look at this data and potentially extrapolate that if Vegas were to stay healthy the whole season, he very well could be very close to winning this.
Do you know there's only 3 teams that have scored multiple goals against them this year? And the irony of it is it's Miami, Birmingham, and North Carolina. 3 teams you would not expect. You would have expected bigger perennial teams, or the teams at the top of each of their respective conferences, to have found the net multiple times against Lou, and has not happened. And full credit to Lou. I mean, they right now they just clinched the Supporter Shield. They're having the best season of their lives.
They're talking about expansion to the stadium.
Full credit. But right now, the only way Koke Vegas can get the Golden Glove is if Damian Loss allows 4, and then Koke is able to keep it clean. If Koke allows just 1 goal, then that number for Loss goes to 5, and then it just continues to spiral out of control. So let's see what happens. But the race can still be on, and Koke is the closest to it. So we'll see what happens here. But what I've really wanted to talk to, and I'm glad that we waited till 55 minutes into this show to talk about Jason. This is my favorite segment.
That's how we do it.
Favorite segment of all time, because I've been waiting for this string of events to happen, and it finally has. We've been talking about it quietly.
Finally happened.
And so there's 2 things that we need to talk about. One, we want to talk about what's happening here in the moment, but then we're going to need to revisit some history here in just a second and look back at that 2024 campaign. So as of right now, Rhode Island FC is the 2nd hottest USL Championship team when it comes to form in the entirety of the league. I'm not talking Eastern Conference versus, but I am talking the entire league. In their last 5, they have gone unbeaten. with 4 wins and 1 draw. And the only team that they're behind is what we just mentioned in Lou City, who have been
completely
flawless.
understandable.
Yeah,
No.
they haven't dropped, they haven't lost a game since the North Carolina game on June 14th. Yeah, well, that too. So I think it's like 14 games that they have not, or that they were the last time they were beaten. So like that's a wild stat. But this team right now is doing phenomenal in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, and so we actually looked at it, and this stretch of games is the longest unbeaten streak since the 22nd of September 2024 to the 17th of November 2024, a run of 9 games last year.
So that was our end of season into the playoffs, something we're kind of basically setting up again for here. And I know the comparisons, if Kano was here, I know he'd scream at me like, do not compare me to last year, but that's where we have to go, because this run, Jason, like I said, second best in the league, it puts us ahead of Tulsa, who have clinched first place. It puts us ahead of Sacramento, New Mexico, Charleston. It puts us ahead of Hartford when we talk about the run of form. If you think about that, right, in the last 5 games, 40%, I said earlier, 40% of our goals have come. Well, also 40% of our points have come in the season from this run of form. And, I know that there's going to be some people that would say, well, yeah, you beat Tampa, you beat Miami, and, because of that, your goal differential is boosted back up to a positive. Something also, most of the teams, by the way, if you look at the goal differential, I think I've got the number here, only 5 teams in the Eastern Conference have a positive goal differential this year.
That's what happens when Louisville and Charleston go around battering everyone.
I like how you did the Charleston battery joke there. So listen, people are going to say, yeah, you're supposed to beat these opponents. These are the cellar dwellers of the league. Does that matter? Because I would ask and say, everyone else pretty much got their shot, at least in the Eastern Conference. They all saw these same teams. So they either got these points or they didn't. I mean, we dropped points to Miami earlier this season when they were good. We played teams that are now at the bottom of the cellar in like Monterey Bay, and we couldn't get the job done. So like, does that actually matter? Or is form a contemporary idea? Is it an abstract? Like, I think it matters, but some would argue that it doesn't.
I don't think it matters that, we've beaten lower quality opponents, if you will. I think at the end of the day, the form is the most important part. There's enough parity in this league that we've seen, lesser teams get results against the bigger teams, right? You talked about how the only teams that have scored multiple goals against Louisville are maybe teams you wouldn't expect to do it. Part of that is maybe Louisville didn't respect them enough at that point. So in this regards, RIFC is not going to be like, oh man, we won, a great game, but against the bad. But like they don't care about that. They are hyped. They are going to go into the next game with confidence, and that's going to continue to build. And that this form has been going now for a few weeks, and none of them are turning around and looking back and say, well, if only we did this against someone good. But even then, with the exception of like a freak cross goal, we could have held Louisville to 0-0. We beat Charleston 1-0. Like, there are other results there that show that this team can go toe-to-toe with anyone. I don't think anyone's going to want to play us.
I know one team that will, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But I want to now talk about the other part of this, and that's the fun part. We got to go into the Wayback Machine here for a second. And, a majority of sickos this year have been rather critical of the team. And I would say at times it's been fair. We've had our fair share of cracks at the team. We've questioned the direction. We've questioned the style of play. We've questioned why we didn't just take the exact same players we had and do the same thing that we had, right? There's been a lot of questions this year. But for those of you that are now looking at the screen, just to kind of like get this out here, it's not like the losses haven't piled up. We have gone through the ringer and come out the other side a completely different fan group, a completely different team. And while the confidence may have been rattled at times, and people may have been saying some ridiculous things about demanding people's jobs or demanding people get traded or benched, Jason, what I do know for sure is the true Rhode Island FC fans have always been forever faithful. And so what if I was to tell you that now, as of 28 games played, we are in the exact same position we were in 2024 with 28 games played. And I don't remember once in that season not believing or not feeling like we had the right team. We had the right group of guys playing for us every single week in and out. 2024. Now there's some differences here. 2024, we were in the 7th position. We only had 8 wins because that was a draw kings situation. Lots of draws, very few losses. But we only had 37 points. Now here in 2025, we're back in 7th position with 11 wins, which then tells us, and we know there's been losses. We're in double digits for the losses, but again, 37 points. 7th place, 37 points, both of these times. 28 games played. Is that madness? Like, has Kano's work here shown that like he knew what he was doing? We just couldn't see it, and now here we are at the end, and we can say we should have never doubted you.
Should have trusted the process.
Right? Sometimes you got to trust the process. And I know before people come online and attack me and go, "Oh, well, Matt, you're saying 28 games in 2024 versus 28 games in 2025 doesn't account for the fact that it was a 34 game season last year, so this would be different." But I ran the numbers, and last year, when you get to the 32nd game in 2024, we gained an additional 10 points, which would have put us to, again, 32 in 32 games. That would have put us to 47 points. We ended that season with 51 points. If you add in the Jägermeister Cup results that were a part of the season that took out those games, we have 3 wins and a draw, Jason. That gives us 10 points, which would put us to 47 points. And with these 2 potential games, if we do go out and win it all outright, that would give us 53 points for the season, which would be a better season than last year's 2024 run, independent of whatever happens in the playoffs. So for anyone that has said that Kano doesn't have the sauce, that Kano doesn't have what it takes, you just couldn't see his masterclass in work. And we all owe Coach Kano an apology for if we've ever thought he doesn't know what he's doing. And I'll say it too. I'll say it right now. I mean, this is the thing that'll get back to him later. It won't be the rest of everything else. But hey, Kano, we as a collective group, we owe you an apology for any time we let a negative thought in that you didn't have the right ideas and the ability to lead this team across the finish line. So I'm going to say it there, and I'm going to leave it at that. Do you disagree or do you agree?
No, I mean, we've questioned it at times, and it all worked out, right? I mean, sure, you could say hindsight's 2020, but at this point with sports, you kind of have to always move forward. You can't dwell too much on the past, and everything's working out right now. So I've got to trust in him at this point to continue going forward.
All right, well, then let's get into this playoff hunt, because that's the other thing that matters. And there's a lot to talk about here, both on the upside and the downside here.
Yeah. And so, with this win in terms of standings, we're now sitting in 7th place. There's still room to climb and fall here. Kind of a testament to how scrappy the table is behind Lou City and Charleston at this point. They've kind of hoarded all of the points for themselves, if they will. Our magic number is now number 2. But if you look at the math here further, a draw could actually just get us in.
Yeah, so did some reconnaissance on some results, and of course some different things do have to happen for this to work out that way. And for those of you that are already seeing on the screen projection here on exactly what's going on, and the league, the league will say one thing, and the league never gets this right because they would rather err on a caution, right? Because after last year when we had solved that, when we're like,
hey, we clinched, why aren't they saying anything?
Right. So basically what happens here is, and what you see on the screen is, so the current position table with 4th place Loudoun, 5th place North Carolina, 6th place Pittsburgh Riverhounds, 7th place Rhode Island FC, Detroit in 8th place. I told you they would continue to slide, and Indy 11 on 9th place. Now, right now, the point spread goes in a little bit of different thing, and what you're seeing on the screen is not our current point spread, but the projected points and how we think these results will pan out. We've been as modest as possible in most of these, as well as maybe kind of trying to demonstrate what Indy could possibly do to keep their playoff chances alive. And so what we've got, and you can agree or disagree, we've got Loudoun in this theoretical dropping all 3 points to Indy, and then drawing against North Carolina. We've got North Carolina losing to us, then obviously drawing Loudoun. We believe Pittsburgh will crush Monterey, but maybe won't be able to get the job completely done against Phoenix, as they seem to be on this meteoric rise. We've got us winning against North Carolina, and then a conservative draw against New Mexico. Detroit getting crushed by Charleston, but then beating Tampa Bay in the final game of the season. And then again, Indy potentially winning both of their games. Now, the importance of this and the reason that we go through all of this exercise is because there's been a lot of conversation this week, both good and both bad. It's been a very weird week. Some people have been like, we can get to fourth place. We're going to get a home game at Centerville Bank Stadium. And others
Some
people
have been drinking the Kool-Aid.
and someone's been drinking the trunk wine, I guess. And then others have been like, we're barely holding on here. And so I think we need to set the record straight. And I want to start with the highest of highs that Rhode Island can go and claim. Now, we did a bunch of scenarios. We broke down all of the individual possibilities, and we did a little bit of math exercise. I am not going to read everything on the screen. I will put people to sleep. But for the sickos that want to see it, it's already on a tweet somewhere. But basically, because the final game of the season between Loudoun and North Carolina is set up in a way that we need to jump both of those teams. Unfortunately, to jump both of those teams would require them to get the minimum points possible, which would mean both of them losing their next game and then drawing their final game so that they each share 1 point versus one team getting 3 points. If either of those teams gets 3 points, we could never reach fourth, and fifth place could also be completely out of hand. Now, there's something missing from this screen here in a second that I'll share, but because of that, Rhode Island FC cannot jump to fourth place. It's mathematically impossible, and I hate to break everyone's hearts about that. But then in addition to, even if results go perfectly our way where we win both of our games, we still get into tiebreaker scenarios if either one of these teams ends up in one of these scenarios where they lose points and then they draw.
And of course, USL has the most complicated tiebreakers of any league in the world.
And so we haven't talked about the tiebreakers at length, so I'm going to quickly go through them. But it starts first. Everyone always thinks it's like goal differential, and it's not. It's head-to-head in your regular season conference games. And so right now, if we are looking at potential draws or tiebreaker scenarios with Loudoun and with North Carolina, if it comes down to Loudoun, we don't have any tiebreakers because they have won.
They kind of have us.
They have us from the earlier victory this year. Now, North Carolina is different where we have them. So from the initial tiebreaker, we would advance. However, we have not played our final game yet with North Carolina. So something could change in that regard where if they scored a 2-1 game against us this weekend, then we would have to move to the second one, which is goal differential in head-to-head. But the ironic part about this is most times is that if you're tied, like usually it's a 1-1, it's a 2-2.
So then your goal difference is going to be the same.
So that will be the same.
That one.
So then you have to go to your PPG versus in-conference opponents in the regular season. Now, I have not done the PPG yet so far because I haven't needed to. But this is what hung us all up last year when we had to start solving PPG for our tiebreaker in 2024. We aren't there yet because we don't need to. That will all change if we don't get a result this weekend as a win or a draw against North Carolina. So keep that in mind. Now, what's missing from this picture, going back to this slide, Pittsburgh Riverhounds. If they win just one game, they're going to fifth place. They have an opportunity to potentially jump all the way to fourth place, but all eyes are on kind of lilyless Riverhounds. They get the job done.
They did it this last week. I mean, Lily Ball is that structure that's been going on forever. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like they're just some sort of android machine. They don't need their head.
Lily Ball is a state of mind. It's not a coach on the pitch. It's a state of mind. So with the Riverhounds very much in control of potentially getting a fourth place positioning, then that drops us down the table. Now, we just talked about how fifth could be as high as we could climb with some real world scenarios. But if Pittsburgh is on fire, and then we start looking at how Loudoun and North Carolina, who suddenly dip out of a home berth for contention, then we all start battling in this three-way for positions 5 and 6. The way these tiebreakers look, and you can see it on the screen, most likely at our best, we're going to end up in a tiebreaker scenario. If Loudoun wins outright and they take fifth place, from a tiebreaker standpoint, we could earn sixth place and beat out North Carolina. But if the other way reverses and North Carolina takes fifth place, then we lose the tiebreaker to Loudoun and drop back to seventh place where we are right now. There's a lot of chaos here. But Jason, what we're not talking about is who we will play. Because right now, positions 1 and 2 have been locked for a very long time.
They're not going anywhere.
I have to also now mention that I believe position 3 is, it's only a few points spread away, but the idea that Hartford Athletic will drop points at this point with the games they have, sure, Lou City could be considered a loss, but I think their last game is against the last place team for this weekend. I don't remember what it is, but everyone's projected that they will get at least 3 more points and clinch a home playoff game for the first time in their history. If we get 6th place, brace yourself, because El Clamico round 4 is coming. Do we want this?
I don't think we want that, Joe.
Are you sure? Because the fans are fired up by this run of form. This feels like Rhode Island's redemption story at this point. I can think of similar derbies that we know very well where in the regular season, one team dominated, but it only matters when it gets to playoffs. And
I mean, that is fair.
would this forgive the entire cycle of losing Jägermeister Cup, of giving Hartford the corridor to Jägermeister Cup to win it all, to then getting spanked by them at Dillon? Would this solve all? Would all sins be forgiven if we went there and won?
If we make it to 6th, they're in 3rd, we go there, knock them out at that point. I think the rest of the fan base, who cares what happens the rest of the year? Like, right?
I think that gives us the
Sure,
ammunition to win the whole thing.
You would want to obviously go on and do it, but clearly it's not easy to win this league. So at that point, I think that the fan base would be so fired up that anything after that is just, icing on the cake.
I love, though, that fans are already buying flights to Charleston with the ability to cancel the flight. So
Yeah.
I like the commitment.
I saw
but
that
not
earlier on in
commitment.
the chat.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. I think Hartford is inevitable. I think the league would want that. I think that this would be the capstone to a very awkward year for that. And in a weird way, I want it. And in another weird way, I don't want anywhere near it until it gets like a conference final. But you know what? Hey, if it happens, it happens. We got to move along, but we shall see what happens there in between. Let's get this North Carolina preview rolling, and let's talk about the head-to-head record.
Yeah, so to review our history with North Carolina FC, Rhode Island leads the head-to-head there, having won 2 matches to NCFC's 0, with a 1 draw between them. That are really forgettable game in like April or something of last year. In terms of goals, Rhode Island has scored 4 goals from Chico, Maxi Rodriguez, Zach Harivo, and Mark Doyle, while North Carolina has scored in 2 of those matches. Their meetings include a 0-0 draw. Yeah, the one I forget about. So much that I thought it was April, but apparently it was May. The 2-1 Rhode Island wins, the July 27th, 2024. We talked about that last week. One of the few come-from-behind victories. And then earlier this year, June 14th, 2025, where we got that last-minute penalty where Maxi scored that at
Kind
the
of
dying
come
breath there.
from a neutral, not behind, but a neutral. They equalized, and then we put him back down. Yeah. So let's talk about North Carolina at length. And, we talked earlier this season about how we may have been the catalyst for Sacramento's meteoric rise. We may have been the catalyst for
Why do we
Hartford
keep doing
Athletics.
this?
But here we go. Where there's a yin, my friend, there's a yang, because it feels like maybe for North Carolina, we had the opposite effect. After our last run in June, which at the time felt like it was North Carolina was flying high. We hadn't proven anything yet at Centerville Bank Stadium. It felt like this was going to be kind of a transformational moment for us. We didn't quite get off the ground, but North Carolina, they completely flopped afterwards. So if you remember, they were in,
So we broke them.
4th, 3rd. I think they were in 3rd or 4th place at the time. They were in 1st at one point. They had the second longest unbeaten streak alongside Loudon, or excuse me, alongside Lou, or was it Loudon? I don't know. I get those 3 mixed up. Anyways, the point is they were doing really well, and we snapped their unbeaten run with that loss. After it just completely shifted their trajectory, and they've gone through a lot of problems. Some of them injury related. We're very familiar with that, but they've gone from being a crisp, sharp attacking football team, something we hadn't seen a lot of last season, to kind of this meandering, inconsistent thing out on the pitch. And they tried to bounce back with some statement wins over a struggling El Paso at the time, and Tampa Bay that had just gone through some managerial changes. We thought maybe that was going to happen. Doesn't get anywhere, and then they collapse in front of Hartford next, and it's just been implosion since. And somehow they've held on, but
because I think they picked up enough points earlier on to kind of let themselves flounder for a while that they're still hovering in one of those playoff spots.
Yeah, and so now the offense is starting to slow down. Their defense is now injury ridden, and they've started to look extremely shaky. Yet despite that, and the stats would say that they're not possession driven, but when you watch the games, they like to hold the ball longer than probably they should. this team feels like they could probably turn it around and maybe spark again, but they've got to find the spark. And that's where the questions are, because they haven't really gone into that leading here into these final games. And like I said, they were a home playoff team. And now they may find themselves towards the very bottom of the Eastern Conference, similar to where they were last year when they had squeaked in that 8th place position.
Yeah, and now coming off a 1-0 win, they could barely hang on against a Miami and, 2-0 beaten from RIFC alumni Colin Smith. Did you see he got put on the hot list of like players?
We had two players. So there was 6 players listed as like the youth to watch. Colin Smith, Jack Panayotu. RIFC may not have an academy, but man, do we know how to bring youth into the league.
Yeah, and so their fate may hinge on less individual performance and more of kind of their tactical discipline. When they dictate tempo through controlled possession and quick passing sequences, they look like a playoff caliber side capable of wearing opponents down. They're very strong on the wings there if they can kind of get that wing play going. But when that rhythm kind of breaks, especially under pressure and in transition, their backline can be exposed. And then results kind of tend to slip away there. They're maybe not always as great as closing some of those matches out as they should be. And so these final weeks are going to be a test for whether, North Carolina can stay compact and kind of control the midfield spaces, manage those late game moments like I was talking about there. And because too often they're dropping points there when they shouldn't be. If they can reestablish the balance there between kind of patience and build up and, some urgency in the final third.
They have no urgency
where
in
it
the
matters.
Final third. They have none.
Maybe they can kind of secure a playoff berth, which sounds kind of crazy to say considering how far up the table they've been at this point. But, the reward for a team whose season's mostly been defined by how well it imposes the style and when it matters the most, it's kind of coming to a close here. They gotta figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, they are battling at this point. They've already clinched for the playoffs, but they are now battling if they could get a home playoff berth. I think if they have to win both of their remaining games, and then some things have to work their way out with Loudoun for that 4th place spot. And again, that also puts Pittsburgh like dead to rights on that spot as well. So there's a possibility. So they're playing for something a little bit different than us. And listen, people slept on this team last year. They snuck into the playoffs, like I said a second ago. And I don't think you can count North Carolina. I don't think a lot of people do enough homework on North Carolina. I think between them and Loudoun, like they just exist. You're here, kick a ball around. And I think that's been a problem for Kano.
Do they have enough like presence in regards to people going out there and shouting, saying, "Hey, pay attention to us"? And maybe that's part of the problem.
I mean, there's no one covering the team from a media or a reporter.
Does Loudoun have one either?
Loudoun does. They have a person who covers from the Next in Line podcast who does DC United and like all the like affiliated things, because the Loudoun used to be a DC United affiliation. So we just have never had him on the show. But quickly run through what kind of tactics, what kind of formation does North Carolina set in before we get to these refs?
Yeah, so they kind of tend to base themselves around a somewhat of a 4-2-3-1 formation or kind of variants of that, with a pretty standard default design there, and possession that shape kind of stretches into more of a attacking 4-2-4 or 4-2-2-2 hybrid there, with one of those wide midfielders or wingers kind of tucking in or kind of interchanging there. They often operate with narrow, half space oriented wide players rather than traditional like hugging the line wingers. A lot of their width, if they get any, tends to come from like fullbacks, if anything.
Which they have some good ones, but unfortunately none of them will probably be making it to this game. We'll talk about that here in a second. The injury report. Who are the refs assignments for this wonderful game down in North Carolina?
Yeah, we have head ref Elhirio Areguin, assistant ref Brian Marshall and Adam Cook, with a fourth official. Words are hard today, right? I took that from you, Josiah Park.
Yeah, and for the first time this season, and I feel like this is right, I think Rhode Island may actually have a contender for, who has the most injured players on the squad. Now, had some conversations with staff, with coaches, and of course the players themselves. I have to break some bad news to everyone. Rio Hope Gunn and Joe Brito will not be activated for the remainder of the regular season.
That's no good.
They are going to be out for that. Hard to say if they will be able to make a comeback in time for the playoffs. But the way conversations have been shaping up around the club, it does not look like that will be it. So we may have seen our last times with both of those players, and we didn't realize it. But we'll be watching and monitoring. Will Meyer remains questionable. I see him in practice every week, and so I don't know. I don't know what it is about, like, why. And since he's the third keeper, I mean, they've had another keeper, and people were asking questions in videos. They saw him coming out with the goalkeeper core, so I'm not quite sure what his situation is or his status there. And then Zach Caravo, I ran into him and just asked him. He said it's a week by week situation. He was hoping to be available for selection here in this coming week, but anything could change with the physios and the determinations to travel. So watch out for that. On the North Carolina side, this is not going well for them. And when we talk about why suddenly some of their attack has petered out, why some of their performances have stalled, it actually comes from some very key players for them being out. So first and foremost, Rafa Menzingen.
That's a big name to be out.
Very big name. And he tore his ACL back in August. So he's been out now for an extended period of time. Midfielder Colin Martin also out with a season-ending injury. He was a major contributor. And then also in the mix, and these two are going to be questionable for the game as they weren't available last week due to some injuries and some knocks in their game the week prior against Miami. But Jaden Servania and Jelani Forbes, both very big contributors to this team currently, were not available. So North Carolina working with kind of a dwindled supply of players. And we're going to see exactly how much Coach Kano can take advantage of that on the weekend. But first and foremost, we got to try to get one of these guaranteed predictions or predictions guaranteed to be wrong, I should say. So what do you got over there, Jason?
Hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I mean, like you say, maybe guaranteed to be wrong, but we could get it right eventually, right? Broken clocks right eventually. Koke Vegas and net, as always, with that back line there of Grant Stoneman, Karifa Yao, and Hamidi Jupe there. Frank Nodarce, Clay Holstead, Hugo Bacharach, and Aldair Sanchez making up that midfield four, with Amos Shapiro-Thompson, J.J. Williams, and Noah Fuson evening out that front line there. I think we could probably see Quizera rotate in for Sanchez. That being said, though, he played 52 minutes against Benin and like 65 minutes against South Africa in the qualifiers. So with all that travel too, we often don't see him come right back into the starting lineup. If he gets any minutes, it's usually very limited. So I wouldn't be surprised even if it's a very short reprise.
He played Monday, and it's a 16-hour flight back, and so then plus regen. If he doesn't regen there first, could he play? Absolutely. Like, that's enough days in between. But between the flights, the uncomfortability, getting back into things, and then honestly, like, how do you not reward this starting 11 by going back out and doing it again? I think we'll see Quizera, at least for this moment in time, rotate to a supplemental role and a support role off the bench. But yeah, I think this is your 11. So for these guys, this is their moment to say, like, this is our spot for the remainder of the season. We're not giving it up, and we're gonna make the most of our minutes, especially for the players that we've seen get swapped from time to time with the likes of Maxi, Ibarra, Atkinson, and the others. So it'll be interesting to see. I completely agree with you. I'm excited to see this, and as long as Rhode Island can stay healthy, I think that's where a lot of the fun is going to be. Talking about North Carolina, again, like you said, in that 4-2-3-1, kind of just want to walk through three player profiles, because with this much injuries, and honestly, it's not our job to predict a starting 11 for a team we don't actively follow. So instead, we thought we would just give you guys some player profiles of some players that you do want to keep your eye on here on this game over the weekend.
Yeah, so first one we're going to talk about here is the Brazilian midfielder, Pedro Dolabella, who joined North Carolina in early 2025. He's been one of the really important kind of cogs there in their central midfield. That's kind of seen some success in regards to his ability, his strength there, his passing range, late runs into danger zone. It's been pretty important there for them. Before he joined them, though, he kind of built a reputation with Union Omaha, who, if you know anything about USL League One, they pretty important team there.
Joe Brito legend, and then Dom Casciano, if you listened to the pod last week, was the head coach that saw all the success now with the Rowdies, and maybe not so much success there yet, but definitely Union Omaha was like peak USL1 for quite a while.
Yeah, and he was very much a consistent contributor there, and that's why he got the reward to move up to the championship there. His game tends to be a balance of defensive duty and kind of, balancing that attack out as well, often trying to link play, covering spaces, arriving late, attacking, the box there to supplement as an additional forward. So far this year, he's scored 7 goals in 26 appearances. Not bad for a midfielder. Second highest scorer on the team, right behind Evan Conway. Also contributed 3 assists there. That's 10 goal contributions. That's nothing to scoff at. In regards to, his midfielder, he kind of masquerades almost as a second striker there. Those late runs, maybe like Lampard-esque, if you will, someone who likes to arrive at that right time, kind of at the top of the box.
I'm neither late nor early. I'm precisely where I need to be at the right time.
And I think that we're going to have to kind of watch out for those late runs here. And, it could be something that RIFC is going to need to keep an eye on.
Absolutely. And then speaking of another goal scorer for the team and another Union Omaha alum, I've got Evan Conway here. He's the leading scorer of North Carolina Strike Force this season. Now in his second season after leaving the Loyal at the destruction of that team earlier in at the end of 2023, he's now scored. Crazy enough, he scored 21 times already across 56 appearances in his all-time career with North Carolina, and he is not afraid to look at goal. And he's got a little bit of a clinical finish to him. I know that like when you start comparing volume and then the conversion rates, it gets a little helter-skelter there, but Conway is, we've talked at length with a lot of teams where they have this one player that they build the attack around, and Conway is absolutely that for North Carolina. Beyond the fact that he's their leading scorer, he's the guy that will take a shot at net whenever possible. And the reality is that it's become kind of predictable in a lot of ways. I think of Marcanic from last year. I think of Zach Ryan for Loudon in last year's run. He's a person that when he gets the ball, he'll take a shot. Doesn't matter where he's at, if he's 6 yards in or 18 yards out. But while we can look at his volume and say, yeah, you're in a league leading, 39 shots, the volume categories there, 17 of those shots on target. So again, some clinicalness there, almost a 50% conversion rate. He's not afraid to fire something off and then see what happens, whether it's a deflection, a punch out, or just a redistribution. But that's just from his shooting game. There's other elements to a striker's responsibility, and this is where he doesn't do as good of a job. And I think without the right supporting cast around him, I think he started to kind of show cracks in the armor in that regard. Even though he's 6'1", Jason, he's a physical player. Like his fouls, his discipline are there. He loses a lot of his duels, both in the air and on the ground. So like when you compare a player like JJ Williams
in the gym,
I don't know. Maybe his jump, maybe there's a jump problem here, but he only has a 37% success rate in his duels on both the ground and in the air. At 6'1", when you're supposed to be harassing a back line, like you'd think that number would go a little bit better, but for some reason the conversion's not there for him. So he's not good in that. And his take-ons, his duels could probably be better, but where he does shine, and I think this is where he makes up for it, is it's in the recovery game. He leads the league in recovery stats across most of the teams in both the championship and in USL 1. So when he's off the ball or the ball's been taken from him, he'll go and get it back. He just can't seem to hold on to it really well. And his dribble stats are kind of weak too. So he's a brute physically. He's got a knack for finishing, and he's a constant threat around the box. So again, linking him up with a player like Pedro Dolabella, that could be a problem. He's got so far in his 20 starts, he's got 9 goals with 1 assist, and he's basically become the primary outlet for all of North Carolina's offense this season.
Yeah, and last but not least here, good old Mikey Maldonado.
He's a problem.
Yeah, he's good. 27-year-old midfielder has been one of North Carolina FC's most quietly influential players in 2025. After joining the club from Forward Madison, Maldonado has evolved from a reliable utility man into a tactical linchpin, thriving as both a deep-line playmaker and a wide-channel distributor. His versatility allows NCFC to kind of shift between a compact 4-2-3-1 and a more fluid 3-5-2. Especially, we saw that a lot from them last year. With Maldonado providing balance in transition, breaking up counterattacks, while also launching attacks through diagonal balls and through throw-ins that stretch opposing defenses. Always got to watch out for that long throw, and I don't know what it is. It just causes chaos.
I mean, Clay Holston and him should have a competition before the match starts and just see who can throw it farther.
Statistically speaking, his season kind of underscores the creative value here more than his goal tally. Around 2,200 minutes, he's got 1 goal and 8 assists. So producing 0.37 goal contributions per 90. Not too shabby. That's, a rate that rivals many of the league's attacking midfielders. He averages 2 chances created per 90 and completes over 46 passes with good accuracy. They're ranking among the team leaders in long balls and successful crosses.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at these 3 players, you'll notice they're all in the central vertical. They're all going to be players trying to keep that compact shape. They're not a team that likes to go wide at any given length, but they can be compromised very easily.
Which is weird because it felt like last year that's kind of what they did.
Yeah,
it's gone
agreed.
wide.
And if you look at Conway being the spearhead, Dolabella bringing that secondary goal threat, Maldonado's really the engine. And you talked earlier about like the creativity, like how does the possession build up? How's that distribution? It actually starts with Maldonado in a lot of ways. And listen, when we talk at length about this team, the problems for North Carolina beyond the injuries, like I looked at their FOTMA upsets. I always like breaking down like what are the key stories of what they're really bad at and what are the key stories about what they're really good at. And North Carolina is not really good at anything. I hate to say it, like mid. At the best they're mid, and like some teams will be really bad in certain ways. It's a glaring opportunity that the team needs to correct tactically or by a player profile, and then they're really good in other ways. This team is pretty even keel on its best day, but then it does have some glaring opportunities. So one, they really don't like possession. They're ranked 21st in the league. Granted, now that's 45.2%, so that's still half of the ball roughly, but this isn't a team that wants the ball in front of them. Dangerous for Rhode Island FC. We've seen so much success with them now in this transition game with this high press, that explosive, breakout versus us holding onto the ball. I think we're doing better, but I think we also are at our best when we don't have the ball at our feet. They also, though, they don't have a press of their own because they don't have any kind of like recovery or winning the ball in the final third. They're actually ranked 20th in that. And they don't have a high possession of final touches in the opposition's box. They're ranked 22nd at that one. And then so then you go, okay, well, where does the attack come from? There has to be from somewhere. That's the problem. There is no attack. They are 22nd and 21st in big chances created and big chances missed. So like this isn't a team that does a lot with even a little. They're just a team that somehow continues to get by. The only nice stat that they have, if we want to call it nice, is they're a very polite team. They're not
a lot of cards.
I know I said Conway is physical, and he is in jockeying for position on that front line. But other than that, they play a mostly clean game. They have the lowest amount of tackles in the league. They have the lowest number of fouls in the league, the lowest number of cards. I'm curious, your opinion, does that stack up well against a heavy physical team like RIFC?
I'll be curious to see how that does line up. Can we be physical with them and kind of get in their face and maybe kind of bring something out of them?
Does Chico need to put the shirt over his head again and go full Darth Sidious again?
Yeah, no. Can we get a rise out of them and maybe kind of, if they're not used to playing that way, then they overcommit and get themselves in trouble?
I don't know. But like I said, it's hard because this team now, they know they're going to make the playoffs no matter what. If they're not getting that home playoff berth, what happens next? They still got to go through a tougher opponent. It'll be interesting to see how they stack up and go for that. And I'll be honest, I think North Carolina is probably one of the most confusing teams for Connor Smith to figure out. You look at this team, Connor likes to exploit. He's a tactician. He studies the greats, right? He always wants to be Pep Guardiola 3.0. And I just don't know how you exploit a team like North Carolina when they're just this vanilla. They don't do anything special. They're just going to show up like a Sunday league team that has a lot more skill in it.
A Sunday league team, but with nothing on it.
And just show up. So I don't know how you crack a tough nut like this. And you mentioned it earlier. I'll remind everyone that the first game we played against them in club history was our second lowest XG of all time in the regular seasons. And so I don't want to predict a 0-0 because I want to see this team maintain its composure around goal scoring. but like this team is not going to be an easy team necessarily to break down in North Carolina. So I think Kano has his work cut out for him. Where can RIFC hurt this team?
Yeah, I think that if we can kind of cut off that central attack there, that that double pivot, neutralize that, their attack may struggle if we kind of force them to play out wide. They're not going to do very well there. They're a bit vulnerable in terms of transition when the possession's lost, moving from attack to defense. There can be gaps there. So, like you said, if we can get to a spot where maybe we're not overly dominating the ball, let them have it, and look for those opportunities to break, I think that we can really punish them there. There's maybe a bit over reliance on rotation and timing if their attackers kind of fail to coordinate the creation. If we can stifle them, press them in the right spots, really force them into uncomfortable positions, that can then lead to those potential like win the ball back, have transitions. So I think there's definitely some opportunity here for RIFC to really punish them. And I think it's, like you said, now more than ever, it's true for this team. They should attempt to get a jump start on and, refuse to kind of give up, continue that fight. This is the time right now. 2 games left. Let's go out and get it.
There's a stat in the JJ interview. He even said it. So he clearly listens to the podcast and said, he's like, I think there's a pretty big stat out there when we are scoring first. Like we do pretty well. And I was like, yeah, there is a stat. And he's like, yeah, it's pretty big. I'm like, do you know the number? He's like, putting me on the spot, like 17. I'm like, and I said it's 20. It's actually 25. So we were both wrong. But we've now won in 25 matches where we score first. So we just need to get the jump on it and let everything settle down. I think this team is very beatable. I think momentum is on our side. I think injuries and a lack of momentum are going to hurt North Carolina. And I think we're going to see that mostly here in the predictions. I mean, 35% of fans across the league think North Carolina is going to get this W in the bag. 52% are drinking from the Pawtucket, from the Seekonk River Kool-Aid down in Pawtucket. So I'm just excited.
What color is the Seekonk River Kool-Aid?
We don't talk about that. We just add food dye in so that it doesn't ever get asked out loud. So I'm excited. I'm predicting a win. I think that we're going to get this in the bag. I don't see why we would get out of form now. Worst case scenario, though, we get a draw. And I didn't quite say this as we were talking the playoff stuff, but if we get a draw, obviously if we win outright, we clinch.
Yeah.
Because the magic number is 2. But even if we get a draw against North Carolina and Indy 11 gets a draw or loses, then we still clinch. So basically 1 point right now gets us in above Indy and we are set to go. So the magic number is a confusing thing for most, but either way, a result gets us in, and I think we're ready for it. I think we're ready to step up in a big way. What have you got for score prediction, or overall, do you think we're going to get this win?
I think we're going to get the win. I think if we drop any points in these last 2 games, I think it maybe more would be to New Mexico, who I think is a little bit in better form, but also maybe just more of an enigma in regards to, the West Coast teams. We'll only see them once a year. And at that point, it'll actually be the furthest we've seen, because think about, they were our very first game ever.
And our last.
And now we capstone them. So
love it. Love it. Friendly reminder, the Trick or Sweet at Centerville Bank Stadium will be on Saturday, October 25th from 5 to 7. That is that's their Halloween party costume thing. So it's free. You just have to get tickets off of their system so that they have your information and then can, sell you guys stuff on the back end of that. So if you're interested, make sure you plan accordingly. And then, of course, for this last time, now that there are no home games for the remainder of the season, don't forget to come out to one of the watch parties. Of course, Defiant 1636s is the best in all of the land, as they will kick things off at the Guild in Pawtucket on Saturday, on October 18th. This game's going to be, at First Horizon Stadium. The weather looks decent. Obviously, unless you're traveling down to North Carolina, aka you're the pool party, you're going to be watching this game on NESN Plus, ESPN Plus, or now W Pro. They're going to be up on 99.7. They've hit the FM bands now. They're going big.
Moving on
so
up.
That's exciting to see. Jason, this has been a long one, but it's been a fun one. What's the final word?
Let's go out there and get that W and knock North Carolina out of their spot.
Can you imagine? Like we've now taken care of Tampa. We don't let North Carolina get a home playoff. Our whole seed of destruction now is just to ruin it for others while we quietly make our way through.
Just ruin everyone else's day. Let's do it.
That's as New England as it gets right there, buddy. All right, get us out of here.
All right. Y'all make sure to check out our friends over at the Blazing Musket for all of your New England soccer coverage, and that includes RIFC, and that's at theblazingmusket.com. You can follow us on Twitter, Threads, TikTok, and Blue Sky at RIFC Podcast. We have an Instagram at Raising Anchor, and then you can always check out our website, raisinganchorpodcast.com. Anchors up, y'all. Catch you later.
See you guys later. Anchors up.